This is Overdriven Automotive, right? That's your page?
Yes, Overdrive Automotive. Yeah.
Awesome. Welcome to the Allcarnews Podcast. It's the second podcast that we are starting out with. And I recognize one of your pages on TikTok, on Instagram. I think you have a YouTube channel too as well, as really growing really fast. And you have a lot more followers on TikTok, because TikTok's really everything right now versus over Instagram. I really found that out, as Instagram is advertising themselves on TikTok. So that's a sign to look out for. But you're definitely also growing pretty quick on Instagram as well. So I want to know a little bit more about your page, why you started it, and kind of the style and the general format of your videos that you do. So I see you do more videos than posts now as well.
Yeah. So I used to do a lot of posts at the beginning, and I didn't show my face a lot or whatever. And I found I started doing better when it was me, when I was interjecting myself in the videos. So it was easier for me to do videos where I just put myself in front of the camera for 15 seconds or whatever. As well, with the up and comings of TikTok, I needed a video format or a post format that would go towards TikTok very well. And then Instagram started with Reels. So I was like, all right, this is perfect. This is a perfect opportunity to share that content. So yeah, most of what I do now is predominantly short form video content based on supercar stuff, like literally anything you can think of. Sometimes it's certain cars, types of cars, car facts, or whatever it is, giving my opinion on stuff. And then I do image posts as well, like carousels and things like that, essentially covering different topics. But yeah, so most of my content, or all of my content, has to do with supercars and hypercars, specifically in that niche. And a lot of it is video stuff. And I've been trying to do a lot more on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I definitely noticed a lot of content coming out, really cool stuff. I think one of my favorite things I've seen that you do is some like the renditions of the different cars that do, or
Yeah, those are some videos. Those are just types of categories of videos that are
yeah,
just gonna hit.
yeah,
And those
definitely.
are one of them. Yeah.
And I think I remember a while ago you did a video. I think it was an aerodynamic graphic of the air flowing through one of the cars.
Yeah.
That was really
So
cool
I
as
love
well.
aerodynamics. I just absolutely love it. I think it's so cool. You can design something stationary and then have it move through the air, and then it makes the car perform better. So I love doing those aerodynamic series where I just dive into as much as I can find
Yeah,
about the car,
definitely.
and then
That's really cool. So what kind of programs do you end up using to make some of these videos?
Yeah, so I do. I mean, for YouTube and stuff like that, I mean, I film on a camera, and I film on a camera for TikTok and Instagram. I use much of the Adobe suite, so
Mhm.
Photoshop for some of the photo posts, Premiere Pro, and then all my 3D work is in Blender, which I think is awesome.
That's
It's
awesome. Yeah.
open source, free 3D
Yep.
software, and then all my 3D work with cars comes from the Blender.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any background in doing 3D work, or have you kind of taught yourself or done it along the way?
So yeah, I have absolutely no background. I kind of just learned as I just got the program and I started
That's
experimenting.
awesome.
I really liked doing the graphic work, like editing in Premiere and Photoshop, and then when I found a 3D software, I was like, this is super cool. It's like Photoshop, but another
Yeah.
dimension. And yeah, so yeah, I've learned from what I've done so far.
Awesome. That's really cool that you can do that and just start making videos of stuff that you really like. Going back to the aerodynamics thing, I was actually saw a post that was looking at the upcoming like top speed hypercars, like the Jesko Absolute from Koenigsegg. I can't remember the other two off the top of my head. I think it was the Hennessy
The
Venom.
SSC Tuatara and
Yeah.
yeah, the Hennessy Venom. Yeah, so those three cars, I think it's a really cool year going into this year in 2021, because all three of those cars are said to be testing their top speed run. We know what's happened with the SSC to Atara,
Definitely.
and they're trying
Yes.
to redeem themselves. And then Koenigsegg is thought to be testing it this year, late 2021, and then Hennessy will use the NASA runway. So I found it really cool that these three cars are chasing a super high top speed. So I wanted to do a video on that, which I did on YouTube, and then that post was essentially comparing the specs in terms of aerodynamics and the horsepower and all of that. And it's like a tight battle. It really is. If you really
Yeah.
look at the numbers, if Hennessy can follow through on what they claim, they probably do have the fastest car out of
Mhm.
the three. It's just being able to do it in theory and being able to do it in practice is clearly two different things. As you know,
100%. Yeah, definitely. I think that from looking at a whole bunch of the specifications, you can only make assumptions off a lot of this stuff. And the whole thing, as we all saw with the Tuatara, is insane how you really have to be careful when measuring
it
things and the
was
numbers.
crazy. I bought it. I was like, all right, yeah.
I
They
bought it
said it was
too.
V-Bucks
Yep.
verified. Yeah, it had to be. And then
Yeah.
when
I
you
mean, when you
when
see
they broke it
something,
down.
oh yeah, sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, but when you see something on publications like Top Gear, Motor Trend, and all these that do videos and articles on it, you can't not just question it. Most readers
Exactly.
would
Yeah.
just see it for their face value and like, oh wow, this is really cool. So Shmi and all his friends really did a lot of investigative work in there to kind of
That was
figure that
incredible.
out.
I think that was really great. The fact that I don't know what spawned the question as to why they'd look into that, but the fact that they did, and the fact that it was based on something, and it was just undeniable that why are these things inconsistent, and then all of this caused them to actually redo it, and do it
Yeah,
properly. Because had that not been questioned, we would have just been believing 316 miles an hour is the current top speed. So I really like the fact that they did that. I don't know what would have spawned the question to say that doesn't even look right, but the fact that they did, it was amazing.
definitely. But looking at the other two competitions, it's almost like a modern day Holy Trinity, if you kind of think like that
Yes,
in a
yeah,
way.
I
But
call them the speed demons instead of the Holy
yes,
Trinity. That's my take on them.
definitely. That's a good name for it. I think it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with the Yesco Absolute and the Hennessy Venom F5, because I think the Hennessy might have a pretty good chance. I know Hennessy, when they had their own Venom, they were pretty good at doing their speed run that they did on their
Yeah, they do.
track.
It's funny. All three of those manufacturers have previous records.
Yeah.
SSC had a car called the Ultimate Aero that won it, and then the
Yep.
Venom GT, and then the Agera RS, which still holds it. So it's crazy to think that all these manufacturers have done it before. So it's not like they don't have the capability.
Definitely.
In terms of the Hennessy, when I watched an interview with John Hennessy, he wanted more than just a top speed chaser,
Yeah.
which was what the GT was. He wanted it's something that can handle, and they're going to test that at the Nürburgring and everything. So it has a lot of horsepower, but the thing holding it back is in terms of aerodynamics, it's a lot bigger in terms of frontal area, and its drag coefficient is much worse than
Yeah.
the other two cars. So it's kind of a give and take. You got the extra horsepower, but you got the aerodynamics to hold it back. So
Definitely. I know you can see I can see you're into aerodynamics big. I'm pretty big into chassis. I don't know why. I'm really obsessed with the chassis of cars. So in looking at these three, I was just couldn't help but notice the Hennessy Venom's carbon fiber monocoque was super rigid. I think it's actually more rigid than a Chiron. There's some number that's better than Chiron they're trying to push out, but I think there was rigidity. But that's nice to see because they are, like you said, they're trying to focus
yeah,
on actually driving the car and the feel that it's going to provide. But it's also interesting to see the extent that they went to reduce weight, so it doesn't have any airbags, it doesn't have a lot of these other features that I think even the SSC Tuatara actually has included into it.
Yeah. Funny enough, though, it is actually the heaviest out of them.
That's funny. Yeah.
And that probably has to do with the engine being a 6.6 liter, while the other two are like 5.5 and 5. So most of that weight's probably coming from the engine. But yeah, it's not what you expect from an American manufacturer. Both SSC and Hennessy, those cars are just it's just not what we expect.
Yeah.
And I really like them for that fact.
Yeah, I think credits due a little bit more to SSC for doing a lot of stuff in-house. Even like everything is in-house, because I know with the F5, the monocoque and a lot of stuff is developed in the United Kingdom and a whole bunch of other stuff from Europe. So they tried to get some strong industry like professionals that already know how to build these crazy fast cars already to have an influence in their product, which could come with better results down the road. We're gonna have to see with that. I want to open up a little bit more of the questions. Do you have any ideas or crazy things that you might want to see coming out of supercars or hypercars in the next 5, 10 years, or even in the short term as well?
In terms of the long term, I think basically every supercar from the big manufacturers, Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, they're going to be hybridized and eventually very quickly fully electric.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not even a trend. It's not a fad. There are big companies and very smart people working at these big companies, and they're investing billions and billions of dollars into these electric platforms. So the choice has been made. We've set our path. Now it's just about executing. And in terms of the supercar lends itself the worst to being electrified. Electrification comes with weight and comes with no noise, no visceralness of the actual engine. In terms of a luxury car like Rolls Royce, you can electrify that and no one would care. It would be better. It would honestly be better. But a Lamborghini, if you take that away, it starts to question what a Lamborghini is. And that's what I find super interesting, how these companies are actually going to survive going in the future, needing to electrify, because we've seen some companies like Rimats come out of absolutely nowhere
Yeah.
and succeed being fully electric because they're just the edge, they're the extreme, the top of
Mhm.
the top, you know. And with Bugatti in the talks of being sold to them, maybe that's a strategy Bugatti might want to apply. But in terms of the Volkswagen Group owned companies like Bentley and Lamborghini, it's a bit of a question as to what they are going to do.
Yeah, definitely. It is nice to see that I know with Lamborghini, I know that they've been pushing really hard to keep the naturally aspirated engines around
Yeah,
with throwing on some kind of hybrid powertrain or that supercapacitor thing they're working on, which is nice to see. So a lot of people see that it's a hybrid now or it's a plug-in hybrid and like, oh, it's ruined, it's horrible. But in reality, I think it's better than slapping on turbos or a supercharger because A, you get to keep the exhaust sound and that
yeah.
the whole big visceral manual feel that everyone loves with the additional of extra power on top of it that you may not even hear at all, which is really nice to have, I think. Um, but I think another interesting brand with Lotus actually, because they have developed that
Yeah,
entire Avaya
huge
hypercar,
rebrand. Yeah,
crazy stuff with that. And I give them a lot of credit for doing that, a lot of in-house and also partnering with I think Williams F1 engineering and stuff on some of the electronics. I think they deserve a lot more credit because if you look at Pininfarina, it's basically just the Rimac
it
C2
is. Yeah,
reskinned, and a lot of the other ones are just kind of thrown together things or some kind of vaporware, a fake brand trying to promote their EV or something. So it's a tough industry, I think, but I think the sound actually might grow on people. It's
I think
never
it would. I think it would. I'm betting on that. I
it's
really think
it's
it would.
never going to be a V12 or the old F1 days where everything sounded incredible, or even with a twin turbo V6 out of Ford GT or something. It's going to be that silent, whirring, high pitched sound. But I think in these higher performance cars, they're really trying to put an effort into making it sound even better than
Hmm.
they a normal Tesla or Nissan Leaf running around every day, which, I give them credit to that as well. Um, I do know some interesting stuff coming out with Lotus, and they're partnering with Alpine. Their new EV brand, they're going to make a joint car on that, and they're making a baby Avaya, which I can't wait to see. It'll be a
They're also
tiny
making
version
an
of it.
SUV
Yeah, that should be
on a
very interesting
Volvo
as well.
platform, I believe. Yeah, so huge. The thing with Lotus is they've been acquired by another company,
Healy,
and because
yes.
of that, they're yeah, they've been completely switched in direction. No longer making these small displacement, small
Yeah,
um, sports cars, which may have worked, but it probably didn't because Lotus is so low volume. Um, they're completely switching it up, doing an SUV, doing this electric hypercar. Like Lotus's name was just tossed everywhere because of the Avaya and because the development is so long. We heard about it 2 years ago or
yeah.
whatever. People start to forget, but when it starts to come out again, and when all these other cars that are so un-Lotus start to come out again, um, I hope they succeed with what they're trying to
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
I think that what we're seeing right now is I'm calling it the Porsche effect. Because I think Maserati was the first brand I think to really take an idea and look at because they tried to do this themselves when they launched the Ghibli and the Levante and all these cars. I remember seeing an article too, like they're trying to become like Porsche because Porsche only used to make sports cars, then they came out with the Cayenne, then the Macan, and
right.
then all these other cars that could help boost sales. I know Maserati tried to do that. I think Lotus is going to be trying to do that as well. So I hope they succeed, especially if everything's going to be electric, which it probably will be for them. So that's going to be a tough market to try to crack with all the huge competition in the electric industry as well.
It
So that's
is,
going to be
yeah.
really interesting to see what comes out of that.
A,
Oh yeah, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so a lot of people like to. I find when you hear Lotus is making an SUV or this company is going electric or whatever, it's diluting the brand. But
Mhm.
had they not done that, there would be no brand.
Yeah,
You know, the most sold cars from Porsche isn't the 918, it isn't the Turbo S, which are the most Porsche cars. It's the Cayenne,
hmm,
it's the four doors, it's the SUVs. The reason why they exist is because they sell. The reason why
yep,
Lamborghini has a SUV is because it's 50% of its sales, which is absolutely incredible.
it
If you
is
think about
incredible.
it,
Yeah,
you've doubled your sales. Literally, you sell Aventadors and S's and all the variants of the Huracan, and then all of that is how many Urises you sell, which is incredible. So with Ferrari's release of their new SUV, I want to see how that goes, because Ferrari is a more pure brand, so to
yeah,
speak. The CEO has said they will never make, they will never there will at least be an engine there. They will never be fully electric, is what I got out of that. So there's that. Even super like boutique manufacturers, like that probably don't even need to, like, fit to the market,
Mhm.
like Pagani and Koenigsegg. They're starting to introduce a lot of electrification. And I mean, that's the trend. Sustainable transport, it's our future. There's developing biofuel and carbon neutral fuel, and I mean, carbon neutral doesn't really solve our problem; it
No,
stops it.
it's the
But
emissions and
but
everything.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, it's legislation now too. It's not even,
definitely. Yeah,
yeah, automotive pushing the actual change. It's, well, you're going to change. If not, you're not going to be able to legally sell your car, which is
exactly.
huge, motivation for all these companies to start moving electric.
Yeah, I talked about this in the last podcast about the push to get everything EVs. A lot of this legislations we're seeing are 2030, which is, I think, is really ambitious.
Which is fast.
It's
It's
it's I personally don't think it could happen by 2030, maybe 2040, because you have to think about emerging markets, developing markets. Like, not everyone can afford
Yeah,
an EV.
if it's stuff like California, if it's stuff
Yeah.
like those centers of automotive innovators or early trendsetters, when Tesla releases a new car, like when the Cybertruck comes out, LA was going to be filled with them, and
Oh,
we
definitely.
know that. So
Yeah.
those places are a lot easier to convert than like a lot of other markets that are very slow to reaching the new EVs and
hmm
stuff like that. So
Even markets, even developed countries and more rich countries like the United Kingdom were struggling with their electrical grid to get the
mhm.
charging infrastructure and all the stuff out. So it's going to be a struggle, I think, over the next 2 decades. Maybe not a decade to get all that stuff,
Yeah,
right, what the legislations want. Another interesting brand that I don't think gets talked enough about, and they're kind of still up and coming, is Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus. I'm sure you're
I do.
familiar with
Yeah, yeah,
them.
yeah. Those
Yeah.
guys are really cool, really down to earth. If you follow their social media, it's
Yep.
just super down to earth. It's like
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So it's a brand essentially. I believe started by the son or the actual director, the movie director.
I think
Um,
it's him himself.
it's him himself.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's he just wants to make race cars is what it is. And
hmm
then they make road cars out of the race cars sometimes. The most prominent car you've probably seen is the SCG 003,
Yep.
which is
Double
that
three.
LMP one. Yeah, that's that style car. But they make like off-road cars and all these, like,
Boot.
classic Italian looking cars and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see them come up. They're also, I didn't even think they'd have a budget big enough to actually participate in the Le Mans Hyperclass,
Yeah.
but somehow they were able to do that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I have a weird connection to them because they're actually their first little hut was like 15 minutes from my house where they
No
started out,
way.
and now they have their factory not too far away too. So where they're building all this stuff. So I was like, I got to figure out how to get in there, but see what's happening. And it's rare to see a new manufacturer come out like this, especially like a boutique low volume manufacturer. I kind of see this as the beginning of like a new Koenigsegg or something, because a lot of these other small manufacturers don't really succeed. They just make one product, they put so much money into it, and then just give up. But they're really branching out. I like how they have a focus on racing too, and dropping that down to a consumer level. I think they really just focus on the pureness of driving. They're gonna be making supercars with a manual transmission and mid-engine, sub $500,000. No one has that, so I think they actually have a good chance of succeeding at or becoming something even greater than they are already.
It is super hard to succeed as a small manufacturer. Like, the ones that we've seen so far do it, like Pagani and Koenigsegg. The reason why they do it is they stick to an extreme.
Mhm.
The Koenigsegg is the best that you can get. They're always going to be the most powerful, or the most this or that. They're so extreme in that, like, category. And Pagani is just art on
Yeah.
wheels. People have said 1,000 times that the Paganis do not handle well. The Zonda sucks at handling. Lewis Hamilton says it's a terrible handling car. People are still going to buy it because,
Yeah.
one, it's a statement, but two, it's art is what it is. What Horatio Pagani has done and what Christian von Koenigsegg has done, this ability to make basically 50 cars a year. That's all they're doing, but it's a viable business because
Mhm.
of how high margin that is, and the fact that they're even being able to just tap into the smallest market, or the smallest share of that market, that is super competitive. It is so hard to compete
Definitely.
in something like the car industry.
And I think a good thing with Pagani is that their owners are so passionate about their cars and they love to show them off. And it's not, they don't keep them as even though they are art pieces, I would consider them very fast and cool art pieces. They like to show them off and drive them around, and they do drive them, which is really cool. And I don't think, Ferrari collectors don't always do that. Keep their cars in these air-conditioned facilities or like garages and
At
stuff.
some point, when you spend over like 10 million on a car, it's, do I want to drive it?
That's also true.
Like every second it spends on the road, you're just losing $50 a second or something like that. It's crazy. I don't know, like the Voiture Noire that
Yeah.
sold like 2 or 3 years ago, 16 million or whatever with taxes. You ever gonna drive that?
No,
Like
it's at the point of unnecessary. It's just at that point I wouldn't want to drive it. It's one of a kind in the world too. So just put it in like if I had a house that big, I would put it in a living room.
Just look at it.
Have it circling around. But I think another interesting thing to look at is the show and display law in the United States. That
is really, it is good that thing exists.
Yes.
Because even cars like the Hennessy F5, that's under show and display. It's not a production car or like a road car, rather.
It's hard to word it to people, because when you tell them it's not road legal, but you can still drive it, they're like, oh, so why they can't make a car that's road legal? But it will be. Don't worry.
They can, and it's an interesting law. Yeah, a lot of people don't know it exists or don't know how it works, but yeah, essentially, if it's special, if it has historical or technical significance, it can either be imported into the thing into the USA, and then you can use it under a certain yearly mileage or whatever it is. And like the McLaren Speedtail, that's show and display. Like a lot of people bought it, but it's completely show and display. So they're only ever going to put like 5,000 miles a year, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I mean, no one's going to drive it that much anyway, so it kind of works out, I think, for them. But it also kind of highlights some of the downfalls of our automotive legislation in the United States, because it's a bit antiquated, because these cars are free to drive around in other countries. Because I think on the Speedtail, it's because it has the side cameras as mirrors.
It does have proper mirrors. Yeah,
I think there's no side curtain airbags because the driver's in the middle.
Yeah.
So just some of those things are just, I mean, okay, it's a special one-off car. Just give it a little pass. They'll be fine. But also in a bigger kind of like scheme, I know we have really old headlight laws here. So we don't have those matrix LED headlights that they get in Europe, but kind of like can change the beam individually. Those are some really safety things that I think would be nice to have here as well. It's just some weird things to nitpick with our legislation here. But we'll see how that changes in the future, especially with stuff like autonomous driving and everything. This could be interesting to see.
Yeah, autonomous driving, I mean, it's either it has to develop super fast or it has to be a long time for this scenario to happen.
Yeah.
But eventually, if so many people if a majority of the population is on autonomous, you driving the car by yourself, you're a threat to everybody else.
Yeah.
Because a completely autonomous grid is the safest possible.
Exactly.
And when you're that one person that isn't driving an autonomous car, it starts to like bring into question, at what point does legislation, I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon, like nowhere soon, but what time does legislation say, no, you have to be autonomous, because otherwise you're actually a danger to the people that are not driving, so to say.
Exactly.
And I think we're going to start to see like a trend where there are certain cars that are going to be, or like there are going to be some collector timepieces. Like those are what Koenigsegg and Pagani are. A Rolex tells the time just like any watch, but it's because it's a Rolex is why people buy it. It's because it's a Koenigsegg or whatever. And I think there's going to be a clear divide as to driving cars. As we go autonomous, there are still going to be a select few of people who are actually still going to want to drive their car.
Definitely. And I think the majority of people are afraid of autonomous cars in general. And
they are
going to have control of what they're doing.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, it's definitely safer if you just take a look at the stats. But go ahead.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing because there's kind of like I think a big I don't know what the word is. There's a big like miscommunication of like what autonomous driving really is right now. Because if you look at when people are rating autonomous systems, you see things like the Cadillac Q system, Super Cruise, rated above Tesla Autopilot, and people are like, "What? That doesn't make any sense. I thought Autopilot was the best." And the only reason they're actually making it higher as a rating is because that it tracks the driver. But the bigger thinking behind that is you need to have a driver then, right? So that's not really
Hmm.
autonomous driving. So that's why, I saw an interview with Elon Musk, and he was saying that that's just stupid because if you want autonomous driving, there shouldn't have to be a driver. So you need to make the car so advanced and capable that it can actually drive itself without a driver. So the
Yeah.
need for like those infrared cameras to look at drivers. I know the Mach-E has that too.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of irrelevant for real autonomous cars, but that's a weird, interesting thing that people don't understand. I think people still argue about that as well too, if they want that as a safety, additional layer of safety for them. It's interesting.
Yeah. There is like this idea, or I'm not sure how it's being implemented, but the Tesla taxi, where
Yeah.
the Teslas are taxis, but there's no one driving the car.
Mhm.
It just comes to you, picks you up, and drops you off to whatever. And that's
Yeah.
only going to be achieved in level 5 autonomy when the car is completely autonomous. Not all cars have level 5. I don't think
No.
I'm not sure if Tesla has full level 5 yet. I'm not sure, but we have cars with level 4 and level 3 and stuff like that where it's not completely autonomous, but yeah, I'm I'm really it's surprising to me how fast Tesla has actually advanced in the autopilot
Yeah.
industry. Like it can do a lot. And I'm surprised.
Yeah, and another thing with the autopilot that I don't, again, no, I don't see a lot of people talking about. Maybe some like the EV pages or forums, they'll talk about it in depth. But I think what people also don't understand is the same thing, is they have like this neural network of all the cars. Every Tesla on the road is collecting information and sending it back to Tesla all the time. Anytime someone uses autopilot, um, if there's an error or they correct it, it goes back to Tesla. It goes in the software and spits it back out to all the cars to improve it.
Yeah,
No one else is doing that like them right now, and that's
that
why,
kind of
yeah, and that's why brands, Toyota, they did a secret. Well, they never said it was Toyota. They did a secret investigation in Japan where they took a Model 3, tore it apart, and they're like, "Oh wow, they're like 5 years ahead of us." But they never said it was Toyota. But there's some publications were confirming that it was who did it. But it's interesting to see like no one's really talking about the real things that are making Tesla just so valuable. It's a little inflated on their market, whatever. But
it most definitely is inflated, but Tesla has absolutely forefronted
yeah,
this move
the
into electric.
entire move
I've heard
definitely.
Christian von Koenigsegg talking about it. He's like, everyone says they have the next Tesla killer, the Porsche Taycan, the
Yep.
the friggin' Lucid Air, or the what's Polestar, the Polestar One.
Yeah, and the
Um,
two.
yeah, all these cars. The Taycan, more expensive, less mileage. You're not a Tesla killer. A
No.
lot of people have tried to come at the Model S, and a lot of people have failed or created a subpar product. What Tesla has been able to do, their job of pushing the automotive industry towards electricity, they've done super successfully. They've released these products that, although a lot of people like to say that Tesla doesn't do marketing, which is they don't have a budget for
Yeah.
advertising. Tesla doesn't do advertising. They do marketing phenomenally well.
Yeah.
That's what the Model X doors are.
Mhm.
If the
Quirks and
front doors
features,
are
yeah.
regular doors, you can only ever park as close as those regular doors would
Yeah.
let you open. So what's the point of having those Falcon doors? When they open up, people look at it and say, "Oh, that's a Tesla." The Cybertruck,
Mhm.
that's a marketing play. And I think it's all of that that has led, the crazy stock price of Tesla. That creating that kind of mass hysteria comes from being phenomenally marketed with their
Yeah,
products, and just they have a great product, and
definitely.
they have a great way of getting it out to people, and it shows.
Yeah, definitely. And the Model X doors are crazy. I think you just did a post on cool doors or something. But
Yeah,
I still can't get over those doors because the amount of different adjustments that they're able to do, how it can go up and down, not just like in and out, is really incredible. And I still remember when it was unveiled and they parked another car next to it so close, and it's able to just like do that so well. I remember there was little quirks and features like people more quirks actually when they first came out were wearing clothes, right? And there was issues and whatever, but everyone picks at all these little little things and makes it into a
yeah.
giant story. But again, like you said, it's a great marketing feature to point out that it's a Tesla, it's cool, and then they want one, and then they have to go get one. But yeah,
Like
it's
the
a cool
fact that me
thing.
and you are talking about those doors
Exactly.
right now is how Tesla becomes so big.
Yep.
It's They don't need to do advertising. They have us doing the
Exactly.
advertising.
And I think the biggest thing is the biggest testament to them is that that Model S was developed over 10 years ago. It
Yeah,
took over
yeah,
a decade for people to actually catch up and finally realize what kind of amazing of a product that Tesla has made. And even the Model S is basically almost the same car as it was back in 2012,
Mhm.
albeit some are a few changes, but really incredible stuff that they were doing there. I'm just looking at my timer. There's like 2 seconds left, but
If you want to keep going, we can keep going.
okay, come on. That is the Charger Hellcat sound. Old stuff.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to keep going, it's up to you. Whatever.
It's more content for you. It's more content for you.
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, if you have any other stuff to add in, I think that's all I really had to say.
Yeah, I
Everything?
mean, we're going electric. There's
Yes,
nothing we can do about it except
definitely.
go electric very well. And Tesla's been a big part of that. And they're a revolutionary car company. And it's not often that you see, I mean, to do what Koenigsegg did and Pagani did, it's easier to do that than do what Tesla did, because they
Yeah,
did mass market. They're
definitely.
they're a lot bigger in how they tackled the actual market, and they've done it phenomenally well. So yeah, I'm excited for the Roadster.
It comes out.
Apparently, yeah, like you said, the legislation says it has to have the mirrors.
Yeah,
So I was watching this Elon Musk interview, and he said, yeah, we're going to use cameras because it's low drag, but there's no legislation saying that the owners of the cars can't take off the mirrors. So they might come with just some like super cheap mirrors or whatever that's
yeah.
like, and you just knock them off, and then they have the cameras there. And
That's
I guess that's
genius,
their way,
actually.
yeah, knocking it, getting around.
Any loophole to get around that. I could see that. I just have the camera and have the mirrors stick onto it if you want it or
Yeah.
not. That'd probably be a good idea. But with the Roadster and the Cybertruck, I know they're making a lot of changes to when they actually put it into production versus those are really prototypes that we saw, early
Yeah.
concepts of both of them. So I can't wait to see what that stuff is going to be like when it finally comes out. I love watching the factory videos of them building their factory in Berlin and in Texas too. They're doing it so fast. That Texas factory is actually part of it's almost complete already. It's only been a few
Yeah.
months. So I really, it's
Tesla's,
incredible.
yeah, Tesla is super vertically integrated.
Yeah.
I mean, with Battery Day, Elon Musk was talking about, we're going to be the best at not making electric cars, but manufacturing. We're going to get down making batteries so perfect that it's going to have no efficiency losses, that we can, start driving the cost per kilowatt hour
Yeah.
down. And they're super vertically integrated. They don't outsource literally anything. It's just from
Hmm.
the battery production all the way to putting that car together. It's all Tesla all the way.
Yeah.
So
It's both a good and bad thing because as we've also seen with the service is insane to kind of like get a
mhm.
bumper change. It could take like a month or two. So it's hard to meet up with the demand of all the cars that they're producing at the same time. But a testament again, like to their trying to get manufacturing down and kind of reinvent how things are going. I don't know if you've seen. There's a giant single piece of the rear frame of the Model Y that they just made. I think it's the world's largest stamped piece of metal for a
Mhm.
chassis, and they're going to start mass producing that for the Model 3 as well too. And it's just trying to get like the parts number down and get the cost down as low as they possibly
Yeah.
can. And I think they're going to start making the battery an actual like structural part of the car.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
That's going to be a really cool thing too. I saw an early image of that. They're making them into like these hexagonal cell shapes. Just
Mhm.
really cool stuff that no one else is doing. I love that Elon is pushing everyone else to like kind of catch up to what he's doing. His crazy ideas and everything. So I can't wait to see what they come out with next. I'm sure it will break the internet again, but
Absolutely.
yeah. I'm out of things to talk about. If you have anything else to add
That's
in,
about, yeah,
feel
that's about
free.
it from my end.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on to the podcast. I think I'll be out next week. It's January 26th, 27th from now. So that'll be out on all the platforms. So I hope everyone enjoys listening to this and our conversation, and make sure to check out Overdriven Automotive.
Overdrive dot
Automotive
automotive. Yeah.
on
On Instagram, and
yeah.
yeah, type it in, you'll find me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming on, and have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. You conducted a great interview. It's an honor, seeing what you've done, going to like 100,000 and then coming all the way back down, man. I can't think of losing what I have now, and then for you having to done that and still back on your grind, it's phenomenal. So
Thank you. Well, I guess
best of luck.
it just goes to show how we're all really passionate in this community and how the community is amazing as well. So welcome to the community as well. And you're going to be a great member of it going down the road. So again, thanks
Thank you
again
so
for
much.
coming on.
Thank you.